Israel is a terrorist state. Open the sea, close the gate. Israel is a terrorist state. Open the sea, close the gate. Open the sea, close the gate. Israel is a terrorist state.
This is a historic occasion today. And the reason why it is historic is because everyone remembers the action taken by the community and labor in 1984 at Pier 80 in San Francisco, where the Ned Lloyd Kimberly was picketed. And as a result of that, longshoremen did not cross the picket line in opposition to the apartheid government in South Africa.
Trading in San Francisco, it's more than symbolic. Longshoremen from Local 10 are hitting South African and American businesses in the pocketbook. They're vowing not to touch the South African cargo on this Dutch ship, even though tonight a federal judge is telling the workers they have to.
To hell with the laws, to hell with the injunctions. I believe that that's what's necessary.
This is more than just another demonstration. This is a challenge to our system of free enterprise. Here you have millions of dollars worth of goods on a ship back there, and people here saying that if you do business with South Africa, you can't do it here.
This money is made off the most extreme exploitation of the black people in South Africa. Families are divided, people are being pushed out. It's like if you were in California and people were pushed out on the Mojave Desert and put in tin shacks with no way to grow food and no way to live, and they die. Every minute in South Africa, a child under 5 on the average dies of starvation.
Demonstrators who tried to block the unloading of cargo from South Africa. It happened on Pier 80. Riot squads, as you see, moved in on 200 protesters. They were pushed out of the way and trucks moved in to unload the ship. But some dock workers who support the protesters said this city of San Francisco is not following its own rules against apartheid.
The hypocrisy of this administration of this city for passing paper resolutions against apartheid and then using the police force to remove people and workers who are trying to strike an economic blow against that regime.
Boycott of South African cargo in 1984 at Pier 80 for 11 days. In that situation, the longshoremen took the dispatch, went to the job, looked at the cargo, told the employer, we do not work South African cargo, and turned around and went home. This happened twice a day. Each shift changed for 11 days. It was a longshore courage in deliberately violating the Taft-Hartley law and the union contract that made that successful.
Free, free Palestine! Don't cross the picket line! Free, free Palestine!
The thing that is going to make Israel and the United States both understand that this cannot continue is the whole question of commerce and trade. This action today to disrupt commerce regarding Israel's ability to do business is going to make them, that they're very vulnerable on that question. And this was critical in building the mobilization against the apartheid. Three-pronged: boycotts, sanctions, divestment.
If longshoremen decide they're not going to cross the picket line, then the Zim ship that's coming in is not going to be worked. And that's going to be repeated around the world in Norway, Sweden, South Africa. 1.5 million people that are trapped inside a small area. That's really not a nation state. It's not a viable nation state. They got an apartheid wall up around, or at least part of the West Bank. And I think people are beginning to understand that the Israeli government has to be sent a message loud and clear that their policies towards the Palestinian people are unjust, and they're going to suffer the consequences.
It's an open-air prison, and it's a human tragedy, and it's preventable. Gaza deserves to live. people of Gaza deserve to live just like the rest of us, and Israel, with the United States' aid, is preventing that.
People being shot by snipers to bombs being dropped on people, you know, and, you know, there are other paramedics who have to go in and deal with that, and so I can relate to that as a paramedic of what it would be like to try and take care of people who are just being so violently oppressed, and it's a horrible thing.
We believe that the labor movement, the unions around the world, should actually organize a blockade of Israel, not Gaza. So this is a very historic step of American working people to say, stop Israel from doing what it's doing.
Back in the late 80s, we were protesting because the Zim line had signed a contract with San Francisco just after the supervisors had passed a resolution saying we could not do business with San Francisco with companies that did business with apartheid South Africa. So what I did, after the vice president of Zim lines denied that they had any business with South Africa, I made telephone calls to the Zim offices in Durban, in Cape Town, in Toronto, in New Orleans, in New York, and I got their shipping schedules out of South Africa. I gave this information to the Board of Supervisors, and they decided that they would make an exception, as they always do for Israel.
What we want to do is to prevent the unloading of an Israeli ship. Let's keep in mind that for 43 years, not a single ship has ever been unloaded in Gaza. There is a blockade there. We're going to have a blockade for 24 hours here in order to prevent the unloading of one ship for a short period of time.
You can't educate kids who come to school hungry, who don't have a place to study, who live in fear of their lives, whose parents are threatened or hauled off to jail, tortured or killed. So we also know that the Israelis last year, when they invaded Gaza, bombed the schools, directly bombed schools in Gaza. So we believe that the conditions of education in Palestine are atrocious.
People I know who go to Israel regularly because they had been supporters of Israel have been appalled by the militarization. They don't even feel comfortable there anymore, and they used to. And they feel bad about the way that Israel has been treating the Palestinians through the wall and these other repressive things.
This is a huge amount of our money. I think Israel is the #1 country receiving the largest amount of aid from the United States, and a lot of it's military aid as well. So we're helping keeping people fighting in the Mideast instead of talking to each other and working things out with respect for each other. And no, we obviously need a great deal of money. I'm a teacher at a community college. We need money. We're broke. Many states are broke, and they need money from the federal government, and it's going to the military instead.
There is currently a 4-year blockade on Gaza, which has imprisoned millions of Gazans, including my family members, in essentially an open-air prison. And we're asking, the world is finally starting to see, and unions all over the world are uniting to really join this growing movement to dismantle the apartheid state of Israel.
When I first heard about it, actually, I wept. I didn't think I would see this in my lifetime, actually.
One-day protest is not enough. I mean, we have to have a continued fight, a direction to go in, you know, like some type of workers' party with a connection to fight up here. Labor unions only can do so much without a political force. I mean, everything is falling under the Democratic party.
And Boxer and Feinstein?
Yeah, and Obama. So
Obama?
Yeah, so we all falling under that direction, which they're not for the working people.
Today, what you witnessed was the current young membership of ILWU Local 10 answering the call. We have to get the word out.
That's right.
We claim no leadership.